Hello, everybody. My name is Jen Lawrence, and I'm the director of the Hideo Sasaki Foundation. We are so happy that you're here with us today for the final presentations of our current cohort of grantees. And a little bit of a blurb about who we are. The Hideo Sasaki Foundation was established in 2000 in honor of Hideo Sasaki, who is the founder of this incredible firm that we are in today. He was a Japanese-American landscape architect. He was also the chair of landscape architecture at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, created this firm, and was really a visionary leader who began all of this work in the 50s. And our mission is, we believe that design has the power to address the most urgent challenges facing us, and that also access to design is often limited for those who need it the most. So in 2017, 2018, we went through a new visioning process and we created a new way of doing our work because we do believe that design is an agent of change. Because the power of design belongs to everyone, we've created 3 tiers of programming and we call them our pillars. And I'm going completely out of order. I'll go to our pillars in a minute. We believe that design has the power. Power of design belongs to all of us. My apologies. And we work to advance equity in design. You can see some of our incredible work here. We believe in supporting community-based organizations with funding, which is what you're all here for today. We amplify voices and work towards systemic change. We have a handful of events coming up in the near future. We'll have the Women in AEC Leadership in August, a mobility equity panel in July, maybe early August. And then new to announce in the fall, we'll be hosting a day of the future of collaborative design here at Sasaki. And then finally, we engage students in career exploration, and we have some of our teaching assistants here today watching this presentation. All right, so here we go. We organize our work in 3 pillars. We have research and grants, public programming, and design education, and all of that work happens with a lot of partners. So if partners are in the room, and there are a lot of Sasakians here, thank you. You are a big part of the reason we can do this. So our design grants, we fund in these buckets. We have creative community building, new models for housing, innovation in transit and access to mobility choices, innovation in health and well-being, and proactive approaches to climate adaptation. We have 3 incredible groups here today who are going to show you the work they've been doing over the last 10 months. And 2 of those groups will be actually, all 3 groups are continuing through the summer, 2 of them with our design education program, and 1 with one of our past teaching assistants who will be working for the summer. So I'm going to turn it over to Gardens for All with Sociedad Latina.
Thank you. Hello. Welcome, everyone. My name is Veronica. I work at Sociedad Latina in the Environmental and Food Justice Program. And over the fall, worked with 15 youth to create a Gardens for All booklet focused on the vertical gardening, indoor growing. And we will start with the presentation. Sorry. So this is us, Jardines para Todos, Garden for All. Our youth in the Environmental Justice Program. As you see there, we also do the hydroponic towers. In the booklet, these are a few of the chapter pages. Jardines for All theme is that the youth leader in the Environmental Justice Program focuses on a guide for simple, affordable, accessible home growing. It's a bilingual book in English and in Spanish. We made 2 separate copies. Created by the youth leaders to identify solutions towards greater access to healthy, affordable foods in our community. Our goal is to inspire and empower community residents living in urban spaces to initiate creative ideas that can help them gain access to the organic, fresh, and affordable food. We worked with the MFA, Museum of Fine Arts, and they did different art projects, but most importantly, they learned how to do cyanotypes with different plants, species, and they printed them and then they used them as artwork for their book. Here are some pictures kind of just showing some of the ideas that they were coming up with for indoor spaces. Thinking about the hydroponic towers, how that we grow vertically. The youth is creating his own little design there. And then this is the youth working on the book itself and the different chapters. You'll see in the background, they did sheets of paper where they were describing what they were going to do on each page and each chapter. And they worked in groups to do that. Here is a copy of our flyer. We did 3 workshops for affordable growing, and that happened in May. And we had community members, and we invited other organizations and other residents of Mission Hill, Roxbury, and surrounding Boston areas. And here we have just some pictures of them doing their actual workshops using recycled materials. I think they were also in this picture showing how to do microgreens, very simple, easy, and affordable to start at home. This picture shows a little bit of their artwork live on the cyanotypes, the plants that they were growing in the hydroponic units. They created recipe cards, and then just some more of the planting with alternative materials besides soil. We used other items. And yeah, so the workshop themes were that the series of workshops were over 40 community members focused on sharing tips of best practices for our new youth book, Jardines para Todos. They were able to get ready for the gardening season by starting some of their seedlings. And some of the residents were also part of the Mayor's Youth Council. This workshop that's focused here would have been outdoors, but it was raining that day. But the other 2 were outdoors. And lastly, that's just another time that we did a hosting for the survey that you see there on the left, that Sociedad Latina's Youth Environmental Justice wants to help their community by doing that survey. And then before we wrap up, besides the slides, just a little bit about what was in the book. And I have the book with me to share if anybody wants to come and take a look. But yes, the chapters talk about barriers to accessing healthy, affordable foods, growing plants in small spaces, recycled containers, and creating home gardens, planting starter seeds at home. And then it just has like a reflection at the end, what they learned and what they want to share. In the introduction, when we were talking about barriers for the community, it's a way of growing at home is a way of saving money and improving our overall health by eating healthy, fresh foods. And beginning to use small spaces creatively is the first step towards food independence, is another part of the book. And then that growing our own food is a powerful act of resilience and self-sufficiency. And it's not just about saving money, it's about developing skills, strengthening our communities, and taking steps towards a more sustainable future. And those were the key things that the youth included in their book. Thank you. Hey, sure. Does anybody have any questions about the books? Thank you. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You want to hand out the books? It's both in English and Spanish for those who are interested. The original print was done in a larger version, but then the print shop suggested that there is a nice handheld version. So in the future, we have a few more of these printed out as well. Yes.
Oh, wow, that's loud. Okay. Just wanted to know if you planned on selling these books and if you have any strategy for distribution.
Plans for selling the book are not in process right now. It's more about sharing the books. So we're printing out another round of copies so that we can continue workshops and sharing to the community. We talked about having some kind of a QR code maybe in the future for a digital version, and then also more accessibility and language too. So yes.
Yeah, I'd love to. I think this would be great for a lot of people in Chinatown, and I'd love to, talk with you about maybe doing a Chinese version. That'd be great.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. That's great. It has come up. It was one of the things is that in the community garden that we have. Yes, and so I'm friends with the community members there, and they speak Cantonese. And that was one of the things is that I was able to get my friend at the community garden with difficulty, but she did the survey. 3 of them attended our workshop, and that caused me to say, hey, wait a minute, I have difficulty communicating. I need a way to be able to, to talk to them and to share and do work with them. So the accessibility for language has come up, and definitely Cantonese is one of those.
Any questions from the design team that helped? To put you on the spot.
I'm just admiring the book. It's so beautiful to see how it all came together and the artwork from the youths that I know they were working on and showing us in the workshops. It's very cool. How were they? I remember they were practicing their presentation skills. How did the presentations go?
The presentations went very well. They were very happy. They were confident in what they were teaching and sharing with their community members. And yes, there was still a little bit of shyness. I think learning to speak out and project our voices for everyone is difficult, but it was an experience and they're learning, and hopefully taking that with them and encouraging them to do that more. But it was definitely something that inspired them to share. They did want to share, take it back home. And I actually had one youth who requested a print earlier than I could get the book, so she could take it to school and do a presentation on her work that was linked to what she was doing at school. So that was definitely a nice thing. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. That was great.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Right. Marcos and Aisha. Yeah.
So I'll just start with a very brief sort of story, I guess. I'm late. I got to Ashmont Station on the Red Line with enough time to make it here, and I missed the train because I didn't want to be a fare evader. And so I had to add to my Charlie card. But what I realized is that this is an example of how old habits are hard to change, because I've been part of the efforts to bring transit to the neighborhood through the Fairmont line. And back 10, 15 years ago, we kept saying downtown in 15 minutes, which is about what it takes from Four Corners. But my initial reaction was, I need to get to Ashmont, to the Red Line, and didn't even consider the train, right? And so that speaks to, this piece of a poem by Edward Markham, Outwitted, right? Sometimes we forget or we self-select out. And so there's a whole process to make sure that, we bring people in, right? Because some are ready to come in, others, want to stay out, and we need them all. There you
go. So in this presentation, we're going to share the goals of our overall project, where we are today, our plan for moving forward, and a little bit of reflection that we had following this process. And I'll start with an introduction. This is our wonderful team. My name is Asia Carl. This is one of our partners, Marcos Beleche. We also had assistance from Cesar Diego, Sarah and Marilyn Foreman, who were unfortunately not able to join us in person. Our team was made of representatives from different areas of our community. We wanted to try our best to amplify the diverse voice that we wanted to reflect in the project. And so we were really intentional about choosing representatives who had different specialties, different areas of interest, specifically from Four Corners.
Yeah, so again, I think a year ago when we were here making the pitch, right? I think that, we started out with these goals, right? Demystifying the planning and development process, engaging more community members, being more inclusive and democratizing the decisions affecting our community. Yep.
And the reason why we took priority in just, uncovering these questions is because Four Corners is currently going through a development and review process with the Squares and Street initiative. And there is a lot of development and interest in investment coming to the community. So we wanted to make sure that residents and stakeholders who are part of the Four Corners community had opportunity to share their voice effectively. So there were three main areas that we sought community input on. And really the reason why we wanted to create a process and focus on the three goals that we set. One is developing street character. Right now, Four Corners is made up of a variety of different small siloed areas that have different utilizations. And so it's hard to see that one identity that the Four Corners community definitely has. And so making sure that community residents and different stakeholders had input on that street character so we could figure out that identity and really showcase it to the rest of Boston was really important to us. We also sought more community involvement and engagement on the development of open spaces. There are a lot of open spaces that are city owned that will be, sold and developed on by people who don't necessarily have community interests at their heart. So making sure that residents are able to mobilize and advocate for themselves, their desires, so that they can continue to develop the character identity of the street and making sure that everything they want in the community is there in open spaces, whether that be parks, buildings, housings, whatever. And then finally, our Main Street intersection. Marcos represents our Main Streets district, and Main Streets, as you know, are the defining characters of the community. So making sure that that identity is really promoted in our main streets and upheld by the businesses, and that businesses feel reflected in that main streets was another real driver behind why we took on this project.
Yeah, so again, I am always in awe of our neighborhood, and I love the pictures of our neighborhood. So we wanted to talk, so that's really where we're at right now, right? Just identifying sort of where we're starting. And we'll talk later about why we're there at the start. But the idea here was to really create some tools that would facilitate that engagement, sort of creating opportunities for people to rethink and to understand and feel comfortable using the language that often comes to our neighborhood with development options. So, we have the beginnings. We have a glossary that one of the interns has been working on. We have some, again, aerials and visuals that our intern Cesar is also working on. And, as a team, we've talked about, testing them and how do we test them, right? So Four Corners Weekend is coming up in the second weekend of July. And as Main Streets, we're hosting tours of the district where we're going to try to test, some of these ideas, right, with folks that sign up. And the other idea that came up on our team was hosting pop-ups where we can actually perhaps use some of the resources that we were presented during the lunch and learns to have people, again, see what the possibilities are when you have access to the right tools, right? And we'll do that. We also feel that we need to translate tools, right? It's we have a very multicultural and multilingual neighborhood and group of stakeholders that we want to include in our circle. So that's the idea of what next steps. So I can also speak to this, right? Because some of this came up during the lunch and learns, right? I had never thought about a district vibe until I saw the presentation by, I think, one of the staff here that was working on a campus redesign, right? And the idea of, they were talking about their vibe, and I said, yeah, what is the vibe? Is it what you see in downtown Crossing, or is it what you see in other smaller neighborhoods? So it's we want to know, right? What sort of comes to mind for folks when they think about, imagine themselves in the district. I think visuals are super important. So we want to be able to have, again, those basic block maps and visuals that, also help people to see where they are, right? Physically, where they are located with respect to what we're talking about. Facilitating engagement with the use of the glossary, glossary terms and the visuals to just be able to be on the same page. And that's really important, right? When we have meetings, we often, talk about addresses, and then people will say, it's that one. It's like, oh, is that the one across from this? And so it creates this big sort of cloud of and you have to backtrack. So these tools will help us to say, it's this one specifically, right? And then, again, the Sasaki Foundation, again, I remember during the first presentation talking about Hideo Sasaki's, vision of just democratizing design and making it accessible. And so I think we have a long ways to go there as well for us, right? To just really have access to things that continue to build our capacity. Yeah, and so with these tools, I think, again, we're hoping to really help people redevelop the sort of skill of dreaming and revisioning, right? So again, we're, with CESI, we're going to be doing some design types boards that, again, people will be able to see stuff from the very neighborhood and say, yeah, that's a really good sort of facade, and we want more of that, or we don't, right? Large scale projections and visuals. Again, that was the idea that came up during our voice meeting, like hosting maybe night events where we put up a screen and hook up a computer and project, right? So that people it's rare to see a night event in our neighborhood, right? A fun night event. Then also being able to get comfortable with, rating and valuing things that we see in the district, right? Not every commercial property adds value, right? And so getting comfortable to be specific about what it is that we like about it or we don't like about it versus just saying, yeah, I don't care for that. And then, again, experimenting that mental walkthrough, guided, sometimes we do quick meditations, right? Where they guide you through your own sort of mentally sort of traveling through your body and what have you, and sensing your body. In this case, we're gonna have people hopefully sense the district block by block. So that's the idea there.
So, at the end of this process, we had a moment to reflect on the success and also some of the questions that we will use to drive our work moving forward. Some of the things that we discovered that we actually didn't anticipate was the interconnectedness of the needs of the residents in our community, despite the fact that they, from our understanding, live in these very siloed situations. And because of that interconnectedness, the way we engage these people is everyone is a little complex. And that's why we plan to use more creative engagement tools like outdoor large scale projections that allow people to come and go as they please, but also it's fun, exciting and provides that benefit of light and safety for our community. The process of developing capacity. Four Corners has a lot of active residents, but a lot of active residents that are working on their own. And so in order for these people to be as successful as they possibly can when advocating for themselves and their businesses, their homes, they need to be educated and aware. And so our glossary will help to develop that capacity so people do have that information and feel more prepared in conversations with developers, owners, the city officials moving forward. We also realized the importance of having really good data and good data tools, and the need to actually customize some data tools exclusively for our community based on past surveys and information that we had, but also information that we realized we needed because of the unique demographics of Four Corners. And so, yes, we knew we needed data, but we didn't know the value and the extent of the data that we needed until we went through this process. And then also we learned that the opportunity to step back and dream was a privilege that unfortunately a lot of people that we are servicing don't necessarily have. And so creating that capacity and giving them something else to give them the ability to even dream and actually vision a better future, a better community for themselves is something that we had to take into consideration and something we have to work on moving forward. And then we have some questions that we're just trying to figure out on our own, like what happens post-grant? How does this support really help us make plans to engage those different demographics of our community moving forward? And then we have, just in general, how can we apply to be supported by organizations like the Sasaki Foundation and others interested in democratizing design, learning, and engagement? And also, how can we, as a group, increase access to design software, but also what can we do to increase accessibility for ourselves and the people we service? And then also we want to make sure that our relationship with our Sasaki partners and the cohort that we were a part of was a mutual relationship. So figuring out how we can support each other moving forward is something that we had a moment to reflect on as well.
We're building capacity here. Next. At Four Corners Main Streets, we not only embrace our color palette, but we also embrace the idea of inclusiveness. And we started to move into that art space. This is meant to sort of recognize that most of the folks there have a matriarch of sorts that really sort of engages the family, supports the family, and often a lot of that stuff happens at the kitchen, right? We happen to have local talent, Miss Asia, who worked with our young people to do this mural last summer. So we're very happy that we're going to be able to continue some of that, just to inspire, to bring color, to brighten people's days and brighten people's lives. Next. So this is it. Thank you. Gracias. And appreciate the support and your attention.
Necessarily a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to that garden workshop that you did. I am inspired by some of the things that you mentioned there, like the pop-up workshops, and I'm looking forward to that.
Hi, I'm Vivian.
I'm Lydia.
We're board members on the Friends of the Chinatown Library. So on behalf of Focal, we want to thank Jennifer and the Sasaki Foundation for supporting our work this year. It's the first time Focal's received a grant like this, and we learned a lot about how access to all this expertise and creative thinking can make such a difference in what we're trying to do. So I just want to give you a little context for Focal, and then we'll talk more about our project. 20 years ago, the Chinatown youth fought hard for a new branch library in Chinatown, and Focal came together to maintain that pressure on the city officials, the BPL trustees, just to make sure that that campaign didn't die. And we won our campaign. So Marty Walsh, former Boston mayor, helped us open the temporary branch library in 2018, which is in the basement of the China Trade Center, with the promise of a permanent branch in the works. So that was a huge victory for the community. And the group that we started, Focal, then shifted to support the staff of the temporary branch. So over the years, we've been waiting for this new permanent branch, and it is coming, we're told. The groundbreaking should be in August. We're keeping our fingers crossed. But while we were doing the work to support our staff, the staff of the branch, we also wanted to pay attention to how the construction was going to play out with the parcel that the library is going to be standing on. So I'll show you that in just a second. But last year, with the Sasaki Foundation's generous support, we were able to pivot and shift our attentions kind of away from making sure the library was going to actually happen, because it is, to taking a look at what else we would need to do to support a healthy institution like the library. So I want to show, oh, sorry, this is just text from the grant. But I want to show you what we're talking about in terms of oops. So this is an aerial view of parcel 1, and it's Harvard Street, Hudson Street. It's next to One Greenway, if you guys have a sense of that. So it's almost like a block of space. It's where the old Chinatown Y used to be, but now it's well, it's been since then a parking lot. And so the new library is going to go up in this space, and this is a rendering of what that new building will look like. So there's housing, affordable housing, and then the 2 floors of the library. So we're really thrilled that this is what's coming. And as I said, they're trying to break ground soon. So what we've been focusing on is, yes. So there is a strip of land on this part, or like kind of right next to the parcel, I guess, parcel R1, that is privately owned. And the concern was that it would remain a parking lot. And given that Chinatown is very dense, highly polluted, and issues around traffic are always causing problems, we were hoping, and this really was Lydia's vision, that we could turn this parking lot into a park, because we were worried that the elderly would, their grandchildren wouldn't be comfortable crossing the street if they're parking, cars going in and out. It would end up being a valet space for the medical center. So that's what we've been working on, although we don't have the expertise to figure out how to convince the property owners that they could actually benefit, okay, from letting go of their rental income for parking spaces and considering the possibilities of a park space. So what Focal is good at is gathering information, getting input from the community. There are summer events, summer and fall events in the community where people come together. There aren't a lot of spaces to do that, but there are a few. There's the ACDC Summer Picnic, there's the Block Party, there's the August Moon Festival. Last year, some of our groups put together like a Halloween, this is what you're seeing here, a Halloween event. And actually, we use the space that we're talking about to kind of help people get an idea of what the space could look like besides being a parking lot. So we're very good, Focal's very good at gathering that kind of feedback and input, but we're not very good at figuring out how to use it, right? To convince the property owner, even to connect with the property owner, but to convince them eventually of considering this option of having a park. Did you want to add? What we found by working with folks here And Jennifer worked so hard to find us all these people to talk to get their advice and their guidance. It made a huge difference for us. Is that while Alexis actually put all of this material together to help us make this argument that actually there are benefits for the property owner to think about how this space could be used differently. It doesn't have to be a parking lot. Monetary benefits, but all other kinds of benefits. So it's clear from the community side that a park would be a huge addition, right? Because there's very little green space in Chinatown. That side of the argument we have down. But what we have a hard time imagining is why the property owner would actually think, oh, this actually would be in their best interest as well. So Alexis, gathering information, we're good at that, right? So I gave Alexis all this information, a ton that I couldn't sort through, and she put it all together in a really nice, compelling way that I think is going to make a huge difference once we connect with the property owner. So that's where we're at. And we're really grateful for Sasaki to find these resources for us, to help us find interns to work with this summer who can create some renderings of what a park could look like that we could kind of take on the road and start winning over the stakeholders in the community so that we can keep the campaign going. We think this can happen, but we didn't know how to get there. And it wasn't until we got to work with you all that it made sense. Like, oh, this can work. Like, this makes sense. There's good data here. There's good information here. This, can actually happen. So we're very grateful.
And I think that it's also, it feels like we have more to also bring to the city and try to convince the city that they need to play a little bit more active role in partnering with us because, the issue is that the site where we want to develop the park, it is private property and it's owned by a church. So the city's attitude has kind of been, they're really supportive of the idea, but they have been sort of like, well, you all bring the property owner to the table and then we can talk. But because, what happened is, through our organizing, we twice ended the property owner's ability to use the site as a parking lot and thought that was going to bring them to the table, but it didn't. The last step, the last time that we did that, it resulted in the church actually suing the city for denying their parking permit. And afterwards, in conversations with the city, we're kind of saying, maybe there's a way for the community and the city to work more together, to try and get into a conversation with the property owner. So I think with all of the work that's been done and is going to be done, it gives us more to bring to the city as well.
Thanks. Any questions?
Hi, as a public artist, have you guys considered like how much rental space for like outside activations and stuff like that? And maybe having somebody to manage outdoor activations and generate money from stuff like that? Because
Yeah, that's just one of the ideas that
That would
Alexis
be-
came up with that we never thought, we never thought of these things. And what you put together is really compelling. So, yeah, that's one of them. Thanks.
So thank you for sharing. I was actually going to ask about the role of the city and whether they've sort of brainstormed any possible solutions. I was thinking there may be a land swap that could work out, right? So yeah, don't let them off the hook.
Yeah, that's been Focal's role since the campaign for the library, just staying on top of city officials, the city council, the BPDA, the mayor's office. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So I don't know. I mean, we don't have a sense of how long this will take, but with this work and just what Alexis has showed us, like within the last week, it really feels like there's real potential for making sure that can happen and that we're not just like dreaming, that it's not just some wish, right, to have a park, but this can really happen. So
And one of the ideas that Focal and the Sasaki designers came up with was a land swap. Could they monetize this to then get the land swap?
And actually along the lines of, your activation idea, one of the things we did think about was, could we try to lease the space from the property owner at a similar rate that Tufts has been paying for their parking lot? And then activate it. At the time, we were thinking like as community garden space, because that's something that's really lacking in the community. So I still feel like, we may try to, with our all of our new material, try that option again. It's going to be a little complicated because now the R1 project is getting ready to break ground. So if it's under construction, it's not going to be a great attractive site for either public art or a garden temporarily, but there's still possibilities.
That's a great idea. I mean, I think again, people benefit from seeing it, right? Piloting it. What the opportunities picture there is actually a privately owned parcel. Sorry, on our presentation. There. It's a privately owned parcel and we are leasing it for 3 years in exchange for maintaining it, but we're activating that space to really see what brings people out, what engages the most, has the best sort of feedback and response to actually pursue a parcel to do that permanently.
More questions?
I think I've been hearing from Alexis about this and I'm so excited because I think it's a great way, the approach that you all are taking to is a great way to not just, have it be just for community benefit, but have it, like you were saying, like how can this also benefit you without necessarily, have like a symbiotic relationship between you all instead of it being, well, you have to give this up, right? Because I think that brings people, it's a little bit more persuasive. And I think there'll be, and also I'm excited for the Seed3 project that's going to happen, that they're going to be able to come up with a concept for that so that it's more visual and they can at least have some idea that you can present and make it more compelling for them. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to come up out of the Seed3 project.
Any other, I think there might be another idea that came from online is incorporating housing as another potential way to contribute to the development costs. Other questions? All right, thank you. Okay, so looking forward, first off, congratulations to everybody who have worked on these projects, the grantees especially, and all of you who helped. Just another big round of applause. Looking forward, we have 2 really exciting updates. For the summertime, all 3 of these projects will be working with either teaching assistants from our Designing Environmental and Social Impact program or our Summer Exploratory Experience and Design program. Seniors who just graduated, who will be going to university in the fall. So we are so excited to see what that will look like. At the end, mid-August, anybody who's Sasaki will get an invitation to come and see those final presentations. So those will be phenomenal. They're going to be awesome. And then we also have just announced our 2025 cohort. We're so excited to be bringing them on. And we have an introduction. So we'll be working with Culinary Commons, which this one is so near and dear to our heart because our Seed3 students last summer worked on a project that was this design kitchen, public kitchen. So this program will aim to establish public kitchens as essential community infrastructure, and they're looking to take these temporary sites and make them permanent in Boston and beyond. We'll be working with the Roxbury Food Truck Park, and I don't know if you've been following these folks, but they have been getting lighting up in the past few weeks. So they've been getting lots of notice, and we'll be working on the design for the first permanent food truck park in Roxbury. And then finally, we'll be working with a youth group from Cambridge called Shade. They create temporary shade structures for high school students to be and to hang out and have a space that is theirs in the summertime. And they're working on making it a functional business model that they can then sell to communities to purchase the templates and the how-to. And also, I already talked about the 2025 Seed3 interns. And the fall time, the report for this group will be published. It will include everything you just saw, plus what they're doing over the summertime. And then we'll also have the kickoff. So also, if you're Sasaki, you'll get invited to the kickoff this fall. And last but not least, I cannot leave you without saying we are currently running our matching campaign for our summer interns. As many of you know, our internship program is run by funding from the state and the city of Boston. And we have, because it's a governmental grant, we have a 10% match. So if you would like to click that QR code, you can help us to meet our match requirement. And also, if you're here and if you're not, let us know that you want to come back. But if you're Sasaki, come and see the students. They'll be right here all summer. They start on July 7th. It's so, so awesome to watch what they can do. It's just incredible. And I believe that is what we've got. One more slide. This is the very fun one. So mark your calendars. We'll be having our Woman in AEC Leadership Happy Hour. And that will be in August. I believe it's the 24th or the 25th, whatever that Thursday is of that week. It is going to be so much fun. It'll be right here on the 8th floor. Tickets go on sale on July 10th, and we are accepting sponsorships. So if anybody works with folks that want to sponsor, sponsorship starts at $500. And that is it for today. We thank you all so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying thank you to the grantees for everything. You've just been an honor to work with. Oh, thank you for that. Architecture, engineering, and construction, and all of the related industry. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.